Devanandan. I'd be your facilitator for today. You can call me Deva. We'd be doing this session on presentation skills today. I think you would already have attended the skill session on interview skills, and there'd also be the group discussions vertical to follow. We can wait for maybe one more minute before we start the full session. Yeah, am I audible to all of you? You can, use the chat box or um,
Yes, sir,
just say
you
thumbs
are.
up. Yeah, good, good. Is the screen visible to all of you, the slides? Sure. Okay, nice, nice. I think the time is now 3:30, sorry, 7:82. Yeah, right, okay. I think we'll start. So today we'll do the workshop on presentation skills, and as I said, you already have covered the interview part, and the group discussions will follow. Today would be the presentation skills, and this is sort of the sessions overview of the whole program. And before we start, I think there are 4 people here. I'd like to know what you hope to get out of this session, this session on presentation skills. You can either type in or you can raise your hand and say, what are your sort of expectations out of the session? What do you hope to get out of the session? Anybody? You can type into chat box or you can talk directly. Yeah, improve your skills, definitely Prajulit. Yeah, improve the presentation skills. Anyone else? Anyone else have any thoughts on what you expect to gain out of this session and tomorrow's session, both together on presentations? Yeah, how to make a presentation in front of the audience. Yes, Ashutosh. Yeah. All right, we'll get to it. So we're trying to sort of understand how to make a good presentation for an audience, and yeah, do's and don'ts also, Prajulit. Yeah, so we'll get right into it. So the elements of a good presentation. What are the elements of a good presentation? What do you think are the elements of a good presentation? Before I go into what I have to say, what do you think? What are the elements of a good presentation?
Good communication skills.
Yeah, sure. Good communication skills. Yes.
Relevant content
Yeah,
and
definitely.
good visual presentation.
Sure, sure. You can also do non-visual presentations. You can just talk, but then visuals always help. Visuals always lets you connect better with the audience. Yes. Anything more? Right. So some of the elements of a good presentation, very, very broadly, very, uh, in an outline manner that we can say include: one, the message or the story. That is the content of your presentation. What you're trying to convey to the audience, that is the message or the story part. Another is the slides or visuals. As I already mentioned briefly, you can present without slides or visuals. That's your choice. But then it is always helpful to let you connect to the audience, the slides. So And that's one other element of the presentation. That's another, one of the broader aspect of the presentation. And the final part is of course the delivery. You may have the content, you may have prepared it into an outline and made it into slides or visuals, but then you always have to deliver it. You have to not stutter and stammer, and you have to deliver it confidently. That's also extremely important. And these are sort of the broad three aspects of a presentation, but there are different, smaller parts to it. All of these come together to make a good presentation, and we'll sort of go into these. And this is, there's a sort of a footnote here, a note before for this, because this is mainly for a typical 15-minute business or a class or conference presentation, and this is not for general public speaking. What do you mean by general public speaking? What do you mean by public speaking, and how is it different from a presentation? What do you think?
Like talking to a large audience,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
TEDx speak or something.
Yeah. And how is it different from a presentation?
Because there we have to convey our message.
Yeah.
To the audience.
Yeah.
And in the business presentation, we have
Mhm.
to convince the people or the board about your idea.
Yeah, definitely. To add to what Ashutosh has said, a presentation, unlike public speaking, it relies a lot less on emotion. Not that public speaking is all about emotion and that's all about it. That also includes facts and everything, but mostly general public speaking is more to a general audience. It's not to a niche or a specific audience, and unlike in the case of presentations. In presentations, you're more than likely to encounter a specific audience, and you'd be, your presentation would be tailor-made for that particular audience. And the content would be different. It'd be more specific, it'd be more concise, and the length definitely is going to be much less compared to that of general public speaking. So this sort of the difference, and we are focusing here on conference or class or business presentations, and not on general public speaking. Moving on. So as I said, the audience is extremely important in public speaking, and this sort of a quote to sort of hit home the point. Designing a presentation without an audience in mind is like writing a love letter and addressing it to whom it may concern. That is extraordinarily general. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't say who you are talking to, and to have a love letter like that is not going to help. And it's extremely similar in the case of a presentation as well. So without an audience in mind, you designing a presentation doesn't make any sense. You have to have the audience in mind, because in a presentation, unlike in general public speaking, as we were saying earlier, there's always the possibility of you knowing the audience or the audience knowing you, or even if otherwise, even if it's still a sort of general non-specialized audience, you can still prepare for it, and you have to make sure that your presentation is suiting the audience. And now we move on to one of the verticals in more detail, and the first sort of vertical is the message or the story, which is the content. As I said, the content of the presentation, and the content of the presentation is the message or the story. And for that, one of the things that can help for you is creating a script. But even if you don't have a script, the most important part of the presentation, the behind the message or the story part of the presentation, is preparation. You have to prepare your content well in advance. You have to be thorough with it, and you have to have structured and organized it well. And this would make sure that whenever you have a a pause, an awkward pause that could happen. So when you're saying and you suddenly forget something, and then you have that awkward pause, and then you don't remember what you're about to say, the script always helps. The preparation part always helps. It'll always have your back, and that's why you should prepare well in advance. And uh, preparing a script is, again, it's an optional point, but it helps. It makes you more confident that way. And yeah. So the most important part of the message, the preparing the content of your presentation, is research. Make sure that you research properly, and thoroughly for preparing the content of your presentation, to prepare what you want to say about um, the set topic or the given point. Always make sure that when you're researching, make sure that you're researching, getting your data, getting your information or sources from the right places. What I mean by right places is that when you, for example, there are a lot of different places out there, like the Wikipedia, for example, which give you information, and that information, to be fair enough, is good. It's not that it's bad, but the problem with a platform like Wikipedia is that there's that possibility of anybody being able to edit it, and thus it being not properly reliable. It's always better to uh, get your information from official sources or business reports or sort of databases or peer-reviewed journal articles and books and so on, where there is a check and balance to make sure that the data is proper. And yeah, you should do maximum research on different aspects of it, but you have to, of course, compress all the information that you get to reach where you want to. And other part is, of course, after sort of in the initial phase of research, after that is done, you have to sort of brainstorm, talk with your peers, talk with your friends, talk with your seniors or teachers or whoever, and let their sort of inputs in, and brainstorm with people and brainstorm yourself and sort of brain dump, and as in all the ideas that you get, put those into a piece of paper or into a sort of Google Doc or a Word document, and try to sort of make sense of it, try to order it in your mind, or try to order it on the paper, or like you can do mind maps as well. You can create connections and networks between these different aspects of this thing, of these ideas you have, these points you have, and sort of make connections with it, network it, situate it in different contexts, sort of create a basic brief outline of what your idea is going to be in this part. And then you come to one of the more important parts of your presentation, or like the preparation for your presentation, which is identifying the core of your message, or identifying your core message. Here, what we're trying to decide is what your audience want to take away. What does your audience, what should your audience take away from what you're saying, from your whole presentation? What is it that you want your audience to take away? You have to decide that beforehand. You have to sort of make sure that you have a clarity in this. Not that it could be 1 or 2 points, more than 1 point, but that should be more concise and more properly put out, and sensibly put out than what's in your head. It should always be more uh, concisely spelled out in your head and in your presentation, so that the audience is able to leave with a sense of understanding what you said, and not if you cramp a lot of things into it, it most often than not, more often than not, backfires. It's always better to have something that is your own contribution, something that after you research, something that you came up with, and let that be the center of your whole presentation, and let that be the core of your message. So that helps. That having clarity on that front, that really helps. So after you have done this whole routine of researching, and then sort of putting together points, brainstorming and brain dumping and mind mapping and everything, and then outlining and identifying your core message, now it's sort of the time to make a first draft of your of the outline of your presentation. There are different ways of doing it, but on a basic scale, on just to sort of structure your content, you can go with the very traditional way of beginning, middle, end, whereby you have your core message and you introduce that core message in the opening part, and then you sort of say more about it in the body, in the middle, and then you conclude by sort of stressing on the relevance of it or emphasizing how it's important or things like that in the conclusion. And that's sort of an outline that you can put. This, you don't need to present in the way the outline is structured. You can begin in the middle or something like that we'll come to later. The scripting strategies will come to in a bit. and also the delivery part we'll come to in a bit, but ideally it's always better to have an outline ready and spelled out, written out, so that you don't, you know, have a lack of clarity in the back of your head. Then you can sort of prepare a rough draft and then edit it ruthlessly. Just a second, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, so when you're preparing a rough draft, you can, you know, it's when a rough draft is not just about one draft in the way of, you know, ending up at the final, the better product. The rough draft is about also understanding more about what you want to say to the audience, more about your whole topic and the surrounding issues about it. And all of this come from preparing drafts, different drafts. If you have the first draft ready, the rough draft ready, you'd already know a lot about your topic, and then you can, you know, get out all the not necessary information from there, edit it ruthlessly, and you can follow the CED rule as we have mentioned here. The CED rule is basically critical, essential, and desirable aspects of your presentation, or whatever you're writing. You can apply this rule, but we are now focusing on the presentation. So the CED rule follows that what is critical, what you think from your research and your preparation, what do you think is critical for your presentation, for what you're trying to put across, that stays. You don't leave it out. That stays in your presentation, that stays in your outline and your script. And what you think is essential, that also stays. That also you can't leave out, that you keep it, because that's essential. But what is desirable but not essential and critical, you leave that out, because, you know, as we've said already, there's a time limit in presentations, and also you know, you can't cram a lot of things into a presentation. It's always better to keep it short, keep it small and minimal. So what is desirable, even if it's really a wonderful wonderful sentence or wonderful line, or a very creative piece of the idea that you came up with, but if it's not essential or critical and it's only desirable, it's only beautiful, you have to leave that out, because it's always better to, if it's a, say, a 10-minute presentation, always better to leave a 30-second or something gap for you, because time is of the essence. And when it comes to, as I said again, even if it's a very beautiful sentence, you have to sacrifice it at the altar of time, because time is more important than beauty in this case, in this presentation. And being on point is more important. So critical and essential is more important than the desirable and the beautiful. So yeah, as I said, already, keep it short, and minimalism is the key. Keep it short and keep it concise, and being minimal about it, trying to get your core message and some very few surrounding things is the best option for you, because a lot of people won't remember a lot of things when you tell them through the space of a presentation. Within 10 minutes, there's only so much people can take, your audience can take, whoever the audience is. So it's always better to keep it short and keep it minimal. And so for your reference, for a 10 to 15-minute presentation, the sort of ballpark, the threshold we're talking about is 1200 to 1800 words. And of course, you can talk faster. You can be, say, for example, you are a rapper, you can probably talk much faster than this. You can go in the 2400 or 3000 word limit, but don't go there. Your audience won't understand you. And there's no point in presenting if your audience doesn't understand you. At least a good portion of your audience doesn't understand you, then there's no point. So 1200 to 1800 words is sort of the ideal, the ideal scope, ideal sort of threshold within which you can operate. In that way, you can talk in a very relaxed manner. Your audience will understand you. Your audience will also be relaxed, and that will make them more receptive to you and your ideas, your presentation. So that's always better to, it always also lets you catch your breath. It's better to keep it in within that 1200 to 1800 words, and that's sort of for a reference. You can, 200 words plus or minus doesn't make much of a difference. If you you can follow this within the scripting pattern, the number of words limit, the word limit, you can follow it within the scripting to make sure that you don't overshoot time. And now we can go to the strategies for outlining or drafting your script for your presentation. But before that, do any of you have any questions at this point? You can type into chat box, or you can just tell me directly. So if at all any of you have any sort of questions or concerns or something to add to what I'm saying, yeah, Shuzosh, yeah, please.
So what is brainstorming?
So brainstorming is when you have ideas, and when you research stuff, and when you talk with different people, you can either brainstorm by yourself, or you get ideas from different places and put those down and research more about it and try to see what fits well with this idea and what fits well with some other idea. Or you can also what do I say, brainstorm with other people, get, say for example, your friends or your colleagues or your peers or whoever, and get their inputs and use their brains, use their ideas for your presentation if they are okay with it, they're helpful. So that's a sort of basic idea, to basically discuss and come up with better ideas and improve your ideas, sharpen your ideas. Brainstorming helps with that. Anything else? All right, let's move on. Yeah, so the strategies for outlining or drafting, this is this is not just for your presentation, this is for your scripting. So when you're scripting, what do you use to sort of strategic sort of outline or draft your script for your presentation? This is what we're trying to look at here. So we look at only some 4 methods here. We have, this is not an exhaustive list. There are more methods out there, but we'll just sort of limit ourselves to these 4 methods for the time being. You can, of course, and none of these 4 methods need to be or must be followed by the book. It's always your choice ultimately. But these we are sort of introducing these 4 methods to you for helping you with structuring your presentation better, for as some sort of devices to fall back on when you are in doubt. That way you would be able to sort of rely on these methods to structure your presentations more efficiently and more concisely, because as I said, time is always of the essence in presentations. So we'll introduce these methods. One of the methods is the PREP method, the PREP method, which is position, reason, example, and position. We'll come to all of these sort of strategies in a minute in more detail. The other one we'll look at is the past, present, future method. Another one that we'll be looking at, the third one, is the problem, cause, solution method. And the fourth one that we'll be looking at is the AIDA method, or the AIDA method, or the attention, interest, desire, action method. So here, what we're talking about is, as I said earlier, none of these are dominant methods. You can, of course, always use other methods, and these are not, as I said again, exhaustive list of methods. But we'll just be introducing these as I keep emphasizing. You can use other methods, and you don't need to be stuck with any of these methods. These are just for your reference. Yeah, we'll start with the PREP method, the position, reason, example, position method. So this method is generally used when you're stating a claim, and then you back it up, and then you give an example, and then you restate the claim. This is the structure of a prep method script of presentation, whereby you generally use it mainly for, debatable topics or topics where you want to make a point very strongly, a topic on which you have strong opinions and you want to state those opinions very strongly. And that is when you, sorry, and that is when you use the prep method for scripting, because it is ideal for, contentious or sort of debatable topics. So for example, what do you think is a debatable topic or a contentious topic? Anyone? Yeah, nobody?
Sir, like democracy versus communism.
Yeah, that's a contentious topic. Another, anybody? For example, vaccines, for example, are a contentious topic in today's world, and we are just sort of out of a COVID pandemic, and we all know about vaccines and everything. And vaccines have become a contentious topic, not because it should be, but somehow people are some people will be resisting vaccines, and thus it becomes a debatable topic, a sort of an emotional topic, of a position with strong people who have strong things to say pro and strong things to say con. And that's what we say with debatable topics or contentious topics. And this is where the prep method is generally ideal. Not that it can't be used in other places, but it's always better when you want to state a claim and state a position. You want to take a position, and when you want to put it across strongly and firmly, the prep method helps with it, because you're stating the position and then you sort of give why you're stating the position, and then you give an example for it, and then you restate the position with further strength. And that's what the prep method is useful for. And that's when uh, the strength of your topic would be properly put across through the prep method. Another way of looking at it is that you say it, you state your position, and you explain it. You say why you're stating that position, why you're having that position, why you are holding that particular position, and then you show why you are, not just saying the reason or the explanation is sometimes not enough. It's always better to show it, to say why you're saying something, and then give an example or something of that sort, and then you can conclude by restating your claim and restating your position. That makes it stronger. One of the example topics that one could use is gene editing for human enhancement ethical. For example, like a more a debatable topic, but then less I'm sorry, a less contentious topic would be, is work from home efficient? Uh, so yeah, in this the question that we are looking at here as an example is this work from home efficient? So what do you think would be the position or the claim here? Anybody? Please type it out or please say it out.
I think it depends on the person. If he has discipline, then work from home would be a better choice for him. If he lacks discipline, then from office work would be good.
Sorry, who was it? Hello? Yeah? Was this Prajulit or Ame?
Yes, sir.
Ame, yeah, Ame. What he said is right, but what would be your position here? Say, for example, you're taking one position, like if, say, for example, you are a disciplined person, what would be your position?
like work from home.
is efficient, right? So the sort of topic is work from home is efficient or not. So your position would be work from home is, say for example, work from home is efficient.
Yes, efficient.
Yeah. And then why would you say it? What would be your reason for it?
Like every employee gets flexibility to work according to his productivity hours. Like some people are
Mhm.
more productive at night, some are more
Mm.
productive in the afternoon.
Mm.
Like way.
Yeah, and then you could give an example for it. That, for example, say you could say how you were able to finish something, a project that you're doing, and you could do it entirely by working from home or something like that. Or you could, for example, do more courses in your free time while being at home. And then through that example, you can restate your position that work from home is efficient. So this is sort of the order. You state a claim, and then you give the explain. You explain it. You say why you say it. Then you give an example for solidifying it or backing it up, and then you restate your claim. This is sort of idea, and we'll look at the other example that I'd be giving here, which is is gene editing for human enhancement ethical or not? The position here is, uh, I'm not saying that this is my person. I'm not saying that this is my personal opinion. You'll all be knowing about germline genome editing via CRISPR should not be allowed by any government until the technology is fully developed. That's the position that is taken. And the reason that's given is that, firstly, at this nascent stage of development of the CRISPR tool, which is the germline gene editing tool, there are all too real risks of off-target effects that may destabilize generations to come. Because it's germline editing, it may destabilize generations, not just individual persons or people, it may destabilize generations, and that's a danger. And the examples that we can give uh, through our research is that, for instance, Chinese scientist He Jiankhui's experimental editing of the germline genes of two babies a couple of years ago was highly controversial within the scientific community because of how risky it was. We do not yet know how this incomplete procedure will affect these children in the years to come. So this is the example that you're giving to solidify your position that it should not be allowed by any government until the technology is fully developed. I'm sorry. And then you're restating your position again. You're sort of putting forth your claim again with a reason, an explanation, and a sort of example to back it up, to make it stronger, to solidify it. You're sort of positioning it again and saying clearly, editing genes is an extremely risky process that may have unintended consequences that can be passed down to future generations. And it should not be encouraged until we know what we are working with, until we are certain of what we are working with. So this is sort of an example for the, sort of a prep method of presentation. As in, these are sort of the one-liners. Of course, you can't say this for only these 4 lines for 10 minutes. You have to have sort of more solid stuff in there, but this sort of one-liners which you can base your presentation on which you can expand your presentation. These are sort of the foundations upon which you can build your flows. So the phrases that we can use here, that when you're using the different layers of the position, reason, example, and position method, the prep method, the phrases that you can start with so when you're stating the claim for the first time, you say I think or I believe or something like that, then you state your reason, of course. And when you're stating your reason, you can say you're saying it because of the primary reason is, or firstly, or secondly, or these are the reasons that you can the state, and then these are the phrases that you can use for stating your reason. Then you can go on to the example. When you're going on to the example, you can use the phrases like, for example, very easily, or for instance, and you can then state out like your example or uh, your instance of why you are saying it, and sort of a real world thing from that you got from your research, of course. And then when you're restating your position, when you're finally sort of concluding with restating your claim again, you can use phrases like, sorry, so as I said, or all in all, or clearly, or to conclude. All of these phrases can be used to sort of highlight that you are restating your position. That you're not saying it for the first time, you are sort of hooking it back to your beginning where you already said the same thing. So yeah, you are now, but now it's more stronger, and so you're, you have your reason, you have your example, and then you're concluding it with restating your position. These are some of the phrases that you can use here. Any questions until now?
No, sir.
All right, okay. Now we can move on to the second method that we sort of dealing with today. That is the past, present, future method. So this method is ideal for, a narrative based presentation, in the sense of you're trying to tell the story of something. You're trying to talk about something's history, something's present, and something's future. For example, you're saying, giving a matter of fact business presentation, for example, and they're saying this and this happened, this and this is what's happening now, and this would be what we can do to say, for example, affect the outcomes or affect our business returns, for example. And this is the past, present, future method. It aids itself to, it helps the presenter to have a linear sort of, a chronology when he or she is presenting, and that's a past, present, future method. As I said again, there's a chronological order, and you mainly use it when you're trying to be both informative as well as predictive, because you're setting the context first, and then you're trying to be predictive. You are trying to say what will happen in the future, or what we can do to affect what will happen in the future, or things like that. And that's sorry, and that's the past, present, future method. It's a very sort of storytelling sort of method, and it's ideal for making a case for something via storytelling. And an example topic could be, we can now edit human genes, and this may irrevocably change the future of our species. This is one of the example topics that we already touched upon. What we are sort of saying here is that we already can edit human genes, and that's the story until now. That's the history, and you can of course set the context of saying how the technology came into use and what's the state of the technology now, and then we can say how this may irrevocably change the future of our species. This is the sort of progression, linear progression. It's very linear. It's not unlike, say, um, for example, movies where you have flashbacks. This is not like movies. You can, this is more sort of very old style movie or old style play with beginning, middle, and end. It's very very easy to structure this way, because it's but it also may always remember that although it's of course easy to structure it this way, but the past, present, and future method, make sure that you use it for relevant purposes, relevant content, as in when you're, for example, it helps when you're trying to be informative and predictive, but it may not help in some other contexts. So use your context accordingly. Yeah, this is one of the examples that I said. And another example that we can do here is, for example, yeah, we are talking about a company called company's plans on, say, development efforts. And when we say last year, we initiated the fast track plan. We sped up the company's developmental efforts and rapidly increased market lines by introducing one product into the market per month. This is the past. This is what already happened. Now we say we have been able to meet this monthly goal over the past 11 months consistently. The quality of products too, I'm happy to know, is better than before, and we are receiving good feedback from customers. The only area that needs improvement is in recruitment and employee training, as we are unable to train them fast enough to join the fast track plan department. So we are being realistic. We are talking about what's happening now, what's the current state. We're talking about the present, but we're not saying all rosy things. We're also saying what's the negative part of it, and what's the sort of drawback, or what's the sort of limitation that we now have, which we can improve upon, and which is the inability to train them fast enough. but we have identified it. So that's a sort of step in the right direction. But we are sort of that's a present, and that's what we're talking about. And finally, we're talking about the future. What we have for the future, what are our ideas for the future. So say, I'm happy to announce that we'll continue with the fast track plan for the next financial year. We'll also ensure that recruitment is done faster and more efficiently through more meaningful outsourcing. So this is the sort of chronological order the past, present, future method of scripting uses, whereby we set the context and we talk about the past, we talk about what has already happened, and then we say how it has progressed, what's its current state, and then we look at prospects and possibilities, and say how we can improve upon in the future. And this is the chronological order of past, present, future method in scripting. And yeah, this is past, present, future method. Any questions? Nothing? Okay, I'll move ahead and yeah. All right, Ashutosh. Okay, we'll move ahead and we'll go to the problem cause solution method. This method, I think all of you, you would, I don't know which levels you would be at. I think some of you would be working, some of you would be still in college, but all of you would be familiar with this very basic way of approaching a presentation, or sort of any aspect in life, or this basic way of looking at science as a whole. There will be differences in, say, for example, the science methods or the research methods in, for example, humanities and social sciences, for example, or the arts. But because there's field work involved and all of that. But apart from those particular disciplines, in most disciplines, this is sort of the way in which you look at uh, look at a problem and approach research as a whole, the problem cause solution method. This is ideal for this is ideal for business and policy presentations, but it's also not just business and policy presentations, as you'd already be, all of you would be aware of. It would also be ideal for any sort of research or scientific or class presentations or whatever. Recognize the problem, figure out the causes, develop a solution. This is when the presenter is expected to come up with a solution, or at least sort of present a solution to your audience. This may be a business meeting. You would be a low level manager reporting to higher level managers, and presenting data findings of the company's performance or something like that. Every time you are expected to develop a solution, or at least present a solution. This is the this is the thing that you use. This is the method that you use. Yeah, just a second, sorry. Yeah, I think the screen is not visible now. Is the screen visible? I'm sorry. Yeah, now the screen is visible, I suppose. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah, the problem cause solution method is ideal for business and policy presentations, as I already mentioned. And you recognize the problems and you figure out the causes and develop a solution. This is how all sort of science works generally, right? You or you present a hypothesis, and then you test the hypothesis, and then you try to if it's a valid hypothesis, then you try to see why something is such, and then you try to figure out the causes, and then you try to develop a solution for it. It's also sort of lies at the heart of all research that relies on action. And then again, for example, we'll go back to your gene editing example for just a sense. Shivang, yes, I'll just look at Shivang's reason so we can communicate opinions with the propose solution with. Yes, Shivang. So the idea is that we can communicate opinions with prep methods, progress solution with PPF method, and solutions with PCS method. Yes, the idea is that prep by prep method, you're not just putting an opinion out there, you're putting a position out there, which means it's an opinion that is backed by fact or backed by examples or backed by valid reason. So there's a difference between a position and an opinion. So you're putting you're putting a position out there, which of course should be solidified by reason or valid causes or whatever. That's the problem. That's the prep method, and with the PPF method, you can, the past, present, future method, you can, as I said earlier, uh, you can talk about both the progress of vision, of course, but also you can talk about a sort of overall picture, and you can be more specific than a broader terms like progress and vision. Yeah, progress definitely, but you can go more than vision and be more specific than vision with PPF method. And of course with PCS it's more the problem cause solution, it's way more direct. It's find a problem, see why it's caused, and then find a solution for it and then present it. So this is a very well done, Shang. This is a really nice way to sort of encapsulate what you said, what has been the three methods so far. Although I'd say it's not just opinions, it's more position, it's a bit more considered opinion, a more solidified foundational opinion. Yeah, so that's that. And here we'll go back to the problem cause solution method. Yeah. Gene editing, again, we can one of the examples that we can give is gene editing is a technology with great health benefits, but how do we ensure it's not misused? Or another example that I'll give you here. This is again, this is a problem, and we have to find out the causes, and then we have to find out the solutions. So this is a sort of fictional clothing company that I've created out of thin air. How can we ensure that there are more takers for Louis Philippe brand of clothes in the Indian market? This is the problem statement. So how do we present upon this aspect? How do we make a sort of viable script and present upon this aspect? How do we identify the problem? How do we identify its causes, and how do we come up with a solution? And how do we present it? This is sort of broad outline or broad structure you follow in the problem cause solution method. So the problem here is Louis Philippe. Despite its worldwide popularity and massive success, has failed to make a significant impact on the Indian market. We need to address this given the potential that India offers for being our biggest customer base. So imagine that you're making this presentation as a lower level manager or a marketing manager to your higher ups in the company called Louis Philippe. And this is the problem that you have at hand, and this is what you're stating. You're stating in your presentation, and this is what you're trying to address. And you have identified the causes, and you're listing out the causes, and the causes are the primary cause for the lack of popularity in India, as per our survey, was that there are not enough designs or style in our repertoire that appeal to the taste of the local consumer base. This is a very valid cause for a clothing brand not being popular. That, for example, that clothing brand not having kurtas or not having lehengas or whatever to appeal to the Indian consumer. Not saying that these are exclusively the taste of the Indian consumer, but designs or styles that the Indian consumer consumer would prefer, they are not there. Is one of the reasons that their survey seemed to have found out. Secondly, we found out that the cost of our products are not as attractive to the average Indian consumer, who has plenty of local and other options that are cheaper to choose from. Because this is also a valid reason, of course, from a marketing perspective. If your price is not competitive enough, then there's every possibility, especially in something like clothing, that you lose out on a major chunk of middle class and lower middle class customers. So these are the problem is all now stated. Now the problem is identified and stated, and we have also identified through the survey the causes and what is the solution that you come up with. And that's the sort of chronology of the problem cause or the structure of the problem cause solution method. So the solutions, firstly, we could come up with a more economic class of clothing products specifically for the Indian market, helped by sourcing cheaper raw materials from within India, and it can operate as a sub brand. That's one solution that would help address the cost factor and also the design and the cost factor mainly. Secondly, we need to employ local designers and cloth makers to appeal to the country's taste. That would address the design or style factor that's lacking in the Louis Philippe case. And thirdly, you can launch a marketing campaign that highlights the premium nature of our products that suit special occasions such as weddings or other events. So the marketing campaign can make sure that even the costlier products of Louis Philippe are attractive to the consumer, and the consumer would look at it as a premium thing that would be ideal for premium events, premium or once in a lifetime events like weddings or other special such occasions, and that the brand value can sort of lend itself to such a cause, such a need. And problem cause solution method is how we can address such business or policy presentations, or even of course any science or conference presentations and so on, because it's always it's way more concise and it's way more specific. It's way more sort of to the point in these specific situations. Not different contexts may require different kinds of presentations, but in these particular contexts, business presentations or policy presentations, it's always better to be concise and sort of follow that order of identifying the problem, identifying its causes, and giving explanation for its causes, and sort of developing a solution and presenting it. That is sort of your ideal way of scripting through these kinds of requirements, presentations with these kinds of requirements. So yeah, that's the problem cause solution method. And finally, we have time. I think we have only 5 minutes left, right? So I think we'll go on to the fourth method tomorrow. The AIDA method, the attention, interest, desire, action method. We'll go to it tomorrow. Any questions in the meanwhile?
So in problem first solution method, we should list out all the possible solutions or focus on some feasible and more important solutions.
So who is this asking?
I am Prajwalit Tiwari.
Hi, Prajwalit. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so Prajwalit, you can. It depends on multiple factors. One, on the time that you have. Two, on the nature of how specific the problem you need to be addressing is. Like, say for example, this problem that I've given as an example here has multiple causes to it, and you can come up with multiple solutions. But you can only present the most important factors there, and the most important, what do you say? There's only so much time that you have at your disposal to present so and so recommendations or causes of problems, and it will also be helpful to identify what's the most important cause for you. So for example, in your survey, something would come up on a higher scale compared to something else. Then you'd have to highlight that as the more important cause, and then you have to address that in your solutions tab, rather than a sort of smaller reason that may also have contributed to this not being popular in the Indian market, but that you have to give second preference only because the other one is definitely more important. So that's one of the ways you can look at it. But yeah, it always helps to have a more comprehensive array of problems and of causes and solutions at your disposal, although you don't use it in your presentation. To have more knowledge about it would help. One, when you have more time than you thought you had, and you end up having more time, you can always use it there. And also, it would always help for further questions after the presentation, where of course after presentation there's always the question answer session that you generally always have, which would mean that you having more material is never going to hurt. You having more causes and solutions and things like that would always make you better prepared, and that will help you be more confident also in your whole presentation. Although, as I said earlier, you have to cut these down ruthlessly in your final draft, and you would go only with the more relevant parts and keep the other stuff sort of in your backup if at all you need it. Anything else? So we can sort of, mm, does anyone want to do a sort of a recap of whatever we have done until now, until the problem cause solution method? Anybody? Do you think you can do it? Like a small recap, like a 2-sentence, 3-sentence recap of whatever we have done until now, whatever we have covered until now.
May I, sir?
Oh, yeah, sure, please, Prajit. Yeah.
So in this session, we have discussed a presentation, especially for short presentation for businesses
Yeah.
and other purposes, 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we start with how to prepare, and we focus on we should research about what we have to present, and we have come up with some methods, mainly one prep method, and second past, present, future method, and currently which is one on the screen is problem past solution method. So we have discussed these method elaborately, each steps of these methods.
Wonderful, Prajit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, what I mean, to add to what he said, we also said how any presentation has sort of 3 main aspects to it broadly, which is the story or message, and the slides or visuals, and then the delivery. So we are still in the sort of story or message part. We're still focusing on the content part of it. We'll go on to the other parts, the slides or visuals, and the delivery part tomorrow, hopefully. I think we should be able to finish it tomorrow itself. Yeah, we will. So that's the sort of broad outline within which we are operating, and we are still in the, as I said again, which we are still in the story or message part. And we are talking about how scripting, a lot of research is ideal for creating a good presentation and sort of putting those down in paper or in your Google Doc or Word document or whatever, and having a sort of clarity, as having a sort of outline or a draft or a sort of a script for your presentation is always ideal, although it's not necessary. You can always, have prepared it and then you just use the slides and then just or talk on your own. But it's always ideal to have that sort of backup in mind, when backup at your hand in your hand, for those times when you may get stuck. It's always better to have a scripted outline of your whole presentation with you. So yeah, that's about it. That's what we were doing doing today. We'll go on to the last method, and then we'll go on to the other aspects of the presentation tomorrow. Tomorrow at 8. We still have the AIDA method to complete, and also the the delivery and the slides visuals part. We can also do a recap later on. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for turning up. This was supposed to be on 5th and 6th. I had a fever, so I couldn't turn up. So thank you for turning up today. And thank you for participating. Yeah. Great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And yeah, someone please send the meeting link to Shivang tomorrow. He has mentioned it in the chat box. The meeting link for tomorrow. Someone please send it to him. Thank you. Yeah, Shivang, you can just get the Zoom link from there. It's in the chat box. Hope you got it. Okay. Bye. See you guys. All right.